But I think it's so important to understand not only your personal finances, but business finances. So you can start making decisions based off of this data. All the numbers is information, but until you start understanding what the story is behind what the numbers are telling you, you're not going to be able to use that. So I think it's so paramount for most individuals to look at not only their personal data and their personal finances, but then also on the business side, dig in and look at.
Welcome to the Say Hola Well podcast, where we talk about how to make work optional, ditch burnout, and start going after your dream life. My name is Luzy King. I went from believing I have to work hard for money to now having multiple investment accounts and be on track to make work optional by 45. Inside my programs, Jefas y Wealth Mastermind and the Say Hola Wealth Academy, I help you reclaim your purpose and make work optional through entrepreneurship and stock market investing. Get ready to have your mindset decolonized and learn the simple money strategies to help you stop trading your income for your labor. Before I get started with the show, I want to remind you to follow us on social at Say Hola Well. You can find me on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And if you are serious about making work optional, I want to invite you to subscribe to Cash Libre, our newsletter, where we send you money and mindset tips directly to your inbox on Thursday. When you are part of Cash Libre community, you get access to a special discount on our programs and access to the Cash Libre quarterly office hours, where you can come and ask me anything. You don't even have to stay for the whole hour. You can just come in, get your question answered, and then go on with your day. With that being said, let's go ahead and start the show. Hello, everyone. Most entrepreneurs and business owners are always afraid of having conversations around money and finances. And of course, most of you even believe that talking about taxes could be scary or something that you do only once a year. In April, so I wanted to bring a guest to talk about all things taxes, her journey into becoming a CPA. So Aminder, thank you for coming to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Lucy.
My pleasure. I want to start the conversation by asking you, what inspired you to become an accountant? And yeah, let's go ahead and get there.
Yeah, so I haven't had a traditional path down to accounting, so I've had my own unique journey here, so I'd love to share it. So actually, I'm Canadian, and I got my undergrad degree in biological sciences. And then when I got married, I moved down to the States, and I started working in nursing. So my background did not start in accounting, but eventually I left nursing, and I started working at a company, just working the front desk. Nursing had become just too cumbersome for me, the long hours. And so I needed a break. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And so while I was working at the front desk at this company, they offered me to do payroll. And so I didn't know what payroll was other than I get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And so I said, yes, I dove in. And that's where I really found, oh, wow, I really love numbers. I love the data entry to all the way into the financials and really reviewing how a business operates on the backside from a finance perspective. So from there, I actually went and got my credits to sit for the CPA exam, wrote those, passed all my CPA exams, and then I went back and started working in startups. And that's where I've really found my love, is just working in corporate and really examining the numbers from a finance perspective. Yeah.
And I love that, because most of the people that I bring here to the show have a very non-traditional background. And they're always the one that say, I tried these, but now I really enjoy doing this, which I love this about you. Now, before I hit record on the podcast, I was talking to you about how so many entrepreneurs and business owners feel so hesitant to have that conversation with an accountant, even a bookkeeper, about numbers. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, why do you think it's so important for small business owner to really dive into their personal finance and business finances to build generational wealth?
Yeah, I think most people are afraid of looking at numbers because it's one of these things that just most folks don't understand. But I think it's so important to understand not only your personal finances, but business finances. So you can start making decisions based off of this data. All the numbers is information, but until you start understanding what the story is behind what the numbers are telling you, you're not going to be able to use that. So I think it's so paramount for most individuals to look at not only their personal data and their personal finances, but then also on the business side, dig in and look at where is my business at and where do I want to go? And that's kind of that gap that you can bridge after you start understanding your numbers.
I love that. Now, I want to ask you about the myths about accounting, because there are so many people out there that celebrate their revenue numbers versus profit numbers. But I don't want to get ahead, and you are the expert here. So what are some of those myths that people need to know when it comes to accounting?
Yeah, I think there's a number of them. I think on my business, I focus a lot on bookkeeping. So a lot of folks, I understand, want to do their own bookkeeping. We all start our businesses, we start small. And so one of the big things is I can do my own bookkeeping, or I don't need to hire someone yet. And this works out fine when you're small, but eventually you hit a point where maybe you don't have the time to invest into building out, checking in with your numbers and making sure you're doing them correctly. You don't have those insights each month into, is this data correct? So I think a lot of folks may start off thinking they can do bookkeeping, but eventually I think it's important to lean into like a professional. And even if it's just getting a second set of eyes of, hey, is this correct? Have I been categorizing this correctly? Am I optimizing for my tax deductions? I think it's super important that they start asking those questions. And another one is really, I only need to see my accountant once a year. So a lot of folks are thinking, at tax time is the perfect time. I can check in, we can review our numbers, and that should be the only time I really need to talk to someone. But what that leads to is you making decisions once a year versus being able to check in with your business on a regular basis and understanding where does your business stand and using that information to make decisions that are going to drive growth, that are going to make you sustainable. If you make decisions based off of data that is incorrect, you may be waiting a whole year before you pivot, and that could be wasted money, could be wasted time. So that's another big one. For me, I also offer CFO level advisory services. So a lot of folks think that CFO level support is really only for big companies. And of course, when you hear CFO, it's one of those terms you hear when you think of a big company, but that level of support really any type of business could use. And so being able to dig in and look at what are my numbers saying? What's that story? Looking at patterns of the revenue side. Is my revenue increasing month over month? Looking at your net profit and looking at what's driving net profit. How's cash flow patterns going? Those are the type of insights that a CFO level can help with, that someone who may be doing bookkeeping on their own may not have that insight and may not even be able to know they can use that information to drive the decision. So I think there's a bunch of different myths, but I think it's important to be aware of them so that you can start tackling them.
I love that. I want to share my personal experience with having someone that can look at my numbers other than myself, because I am a visionary and I'm very excited every time I want to do something. So I could think about like, oh my God, I want to make $100,000 this year. And I focus on things that distract me versus the things that can make me money. And so having an extra set of eyes and someone who can, I don't know, message me or email me and say like, hey, remember, this is your revenue goal. Where are you on these? And have you implemented X, Y, or Z? Like for me personally, that has been worth the full investment on having someone look at my numbers, because then I am accountable too. And sometimes people see me and they're like, well, you talk about money all the time. You probably have everything perfect. And the reality is like, I am also a human being and I also make mistakes. So having a CFO, especially for me as a small business owner, has been a game changer. Now, I want to talk about something that you said about making sure that the expenses are categorized correctly. a lot of us don't even know what that means, right? So can you break it down like 101 level? What does that mean?
Yeah, so categorizing your expenses or any data that comes in, I'm really talking about when you have your QuickBooks set up. Maybe it's set up in QuickBooks or you're using a spreadsheet, but you're really looking at all your activity. And usually this comes from bank activity or credit card activity. Each purchase you make, what is it for? So you're really asking that question. Say you're purchasing software. Are you categorizing it as such an item in your software system on your spreadsheet so that you can review the data at the end of the month? And all this data kind of gets grouped together into financial reports. And those are the reports you're really looking at month end to be able to look at how is the business performing. And so categorizing an expense, really, if you look at that flow, you may have purchased a software subscription for Canva. That will probably come through your credit card account or your bank account, depending on how you purchased it. And that needs to be categorized or put to an account in your books so that it's, say, a software subscription. That's your chart of accounts that you really set up. And a lot of softwares will set that up for you. But for my clients, I really customize it for what your business is so that, again, it's about creating that story around your business. And so when you're reviewing your P&L at the end of the month, you're looking at that line on your P&L that says software subscriptions. You're looking at how does that change month to month? Are my software subscriptions increasing? Or are they decreasing? Why are they increasing? Those are the kind of questions then you can start digging into. And those are the insights you can really look at. And if there are subscriptions you're not using, those are the kind of things you can go back and look at. Okay, I'm not using Canva anymore. This is a wasted $15 a month. I can go cancel this. But until you can start tracking that data, you're not going to be able to make decisions on it. Sometimes you might not even know you have a subscription that's been running for so long. And this happens on our personal side too. We have all these Netflix, Prime subscriptions, and they kind of go into the void. And so it's really imperative to be able to see it and then document it so then you can make a choice or a decision around it.
I love these. I'm drooling right now because I never thought that I will enjoy these conversations, but now I do. Now, I want to bring something that I hear all the time, and that is for the entrepreneurs that are running a beautiful business, but haven't had the opportunity to pay themselves through their business for over a year. Have you had any of those clients that are, it looks like they're killing it on social media, but then behind doors are like, oh my God, I haven't really been paying myself for over a year? And how do you handle that conversation with them specifically?
Yeah, I think this is really common. When we start off our business, we want to invest all our time, our energy, our money that's coming in back into the business to be able to grow it. But I think it's so important to understand that a portion of why we're doing our business is to be able to pay ourselves, to build a life of our own. And so the conversation I have with my clients is, what is the take home you want to have? And let's make a plan to be able to do that. You don't want to just run a business to run a business. The end goal should be, how do you set up retirement accounts for yourself? How are you setting up different health insurance accounts for yourself? How are you paying yourself? And so really start to ask those questions to be able to dig into, how are we going to set up the flow of your cash so that it's not all going in and out of your business, but a portion of that is for you. And so again, it's all about creating that cash flow forecasting and planning and being able to set aside a certain amount each month and being able to have that conversation with the clients. A lot of times they don't even know that they can pay themselves. They think, well, I'm barely covering my expenses. And so then that's where you start looking into, like we talked previously, what expenses are there and what can we change about that to be able to change what your net profit is, what your cash flow is, and then be able to pay you. So you start having different conversations around the flow of funds in your business, and that changes how you run your business. And so I think it's so important to have that conversation with every client, and every business owner should be looking at that.
I love these. I also think that a lot of people sometimes tend to invest in websites and logo and branding, things that cost over $10,000. And they lack the support from people like you, where you can sit down with a client and say, hey, let's talk about how much money you want to make and how much you want to pay yourself, and let's set up your business so eventually you're able to keep more of what you earn and then reduce your taxable income. But accounting and money can be such a daunting topic for a lot of entrepreneurs. And I don't know if this happened to you, but I know it happened to me, where entrepreneurship brought a lot of wounds that I didn't know I had, and I have to heal them before I could actually serve people. Did you go through any of those like ups and downs of like, who am I to want to have a business? And give us the scoop, because here we love chisme. That's the word for gossip.
Yeah. No, I think I definitely did. It definitely highlights a lot of those areas of growth personally. So I think for myself, working in corporate, I've always been this high achiever of I'm going to just go do it. I'm going to go do it. And then when I pivoted and I started on my own business, you can't always control all things that come through and happen with your business. Worrying about, am I going to even be successful here? My first client, or is anyone even going to sign up with my services? What do I have to offer that someone else doesn't? Right. And so overcoming that fear within myself of not feeling like I could be successful on my own, and grounding it more in trying to figure out, okay, what are the steps I need to take? What are the things that I do have control around in my day-to-day? What can I focus on a smaller scale, so I'm not feeling overwhelmed by, well, this is this huge task, this instrumental task of starting a business. How will I ever be successful? And feeling like, no, I am already successful. And how do I want to change what success looks like for me? And for me now, success isn't about chasing that bottom line. It's not always about driving higher and higher profit. It's about that freedom I've also found. When I was working in startups in corporate, I was working really long hours. I didn't even realize it until I left, that I have the freedom to choose what my day looks like. I can actually have breakfast not at my desk. I can go outside for a walk at lunch. I can spend a day off and I don't have to tell anyone, and other than my clients, as long as they're aware. There's no sort of double checking on that front. I am an accountable person. And just that pivot away from that, it kind of highlighted those areas of like, okay, this is personal growth that also needs to happen so I can support myself, so that I can be healthy and be able to support my clients. So I think there's definitely been a journey on that front. I'm still learning and growing as I go.
Yes. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, we don't have to ask for PTO, because we can grant ourselves that permission. And I love how you're saying you don't even have to eat at our desk, because it's so crazy how many people working in a 9 to 5 have normalized eating at their desk and continue to be productive. And for us is totally the opposite. We give ourselves permission to go on a walk, cancel a meeting if we need to. I don't know if you have children, but like for me, close the office at 3 p.m. and just go pick up my kids from school. And so this is so beautiful. Now, I want to bring it back a little bit to what you said at the beginning of the podcast, which was you being Canadian, moving to the States now. Did you, first of all, how old were you when that happened? And can you talk a little bit about the difference between maybe the money side of how is money managed over there versus how is money managed over here? And what part of your upbringings have you been able to also continue to implement that is helping your clients thrive and, of course, allow them to have successful businesses?
Yeah. So I was in my early 20s when I came down. I got married and I moved down. And my upbringing is I'm a child of immigrant parents. They moved from India to Canada. And so I grew up in Calgary. It's the location most people know, like Vancouver, Toronto, but Calgary's right in the middle. It's part of the prairies, but they instilled really strong work ethic in me. So I've been working from a very young age. I think 16, I started working odd jobs while I was in school. I worked throughout college. And so that really taught me how to manage money. I wouldn't be working long durations, but say I might take the summer off and just work. And so really you have to get really good with managing your money. I have X number of dollars. They have to last me throughout the year. And so bringing that mindset when I came over was being able to be financially responsible around money. So how much I spend, what am I spending on, looking at what's coming in and what's going out. So removing the stigma of, well, I don't know, my bank account, I just deposit my paycheck in my bank account. I don't know, whatever it does, and being more intentional around money and being able to invest it and grow it outside of just my business, even on a personal front, taking more intentional steps on that front. Even starting my business was with that intent of, okay, I want to start my business, but what does that look like from a financial perspective? How much money do I need to start? How much do I need to cover my personal expenses while I launch my business? And so it kind of allowed me to be more familiar with money. And the more familiar I've become with money, I feel like the decisions around it are not difficult. And so that's the same approach I take with my clients, is the more I can help them understand what their money's doing, how the money's coming in, where it's going out, we can start making decisions around, how do you want to use this money? Do you want to use it to grow your business X amount? Do you want to be able to pay yourself a certain amount? Are you trying to build personal wealth, right? There's all these decisions then come around it, but a lot of that is taking this educational approach and being a partner to them through this journey. I have a bookkeeping, a CFO advisory service firm, but really what I'm trying to do is help educate my clients so that the numbers aren't daunting. And so they can approach me, they can approach their numbers with confidence.
And I love that. And I wanted you to share that you are the daughter of immigrants, because people listen to the podcast because we bring a variety of guests. And for us, it's also important that we highlight your journey, not just as a small business owner or professional, but also like the meat and potatoes of who you are and what you do. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I want to ask you about your journey into entrepreneurship. Who is part of your team? Are you a solo team right now? Give us a scoop on like what happens. Do you work from home? Do you take clients just like regionally, or did you take clients from all over the US? Like, this is your time to ask for the sale.
Yeah. So my firm, I focus on Washington State business owners. I'm a licensed CPA in Washington. And so I focus on bookkeeping and CFO advisory services. And I partner with other accounting firms that offer tax. I, as a CPA, have obviously the depth to be able to help clients drive decisions around that, but I don't do tax filing. I just focus on my zone of genius. And so
that's great.
Yeah. So I love doing that with my clients. I'm here in Washington. I work virtually. So I work from home, and I'm by myself right now. I'd love to build out a team eventually. But right now I love being hands-on with my clients. So they know when their books are being worked on, when we're meeting monthly, that I'm going to be the person that they're going to connect with, that they're going to communicate with. And so for now, I'm a solo firm, but I'd love to be able to grow in Washington side. So I'm in Redmond right now. And so I love supporting local businesses. I love showing up to local events and networking and just seeing faces. And that's kind of hard because I'm working from home. So I have to kind of be diligent, get out and see faces, but I love doing it. And the summer's been like beautiful and great. So it's just been a great opportunity to get out and meet people.
I love that so much. Now, if you had a magic wand, what are 3 things that you wish every single small owner would do in order to make your job as a bookkeeper and fractional CFO easier?
Yes. So I think the number one thing I see is mixing personal and business expenses. And I know when you're starting off, you're using the same credit card, the bank account, but it's super important that you separate the two so that you can start getting a clear picture of what's business and what's not. And it reduces audit risk too. When you're intermingling so much, it can really, it takes your bookkeeper so much longer to pull everything apart. The categorization takes time, and it can kind of limit your tax deductions too if you're not accurately bringing in everything that you personally purchase. So that's really important. Just separate the personal from business as one, and then start implementing a software system as soon as you can. I know there's many options out there. QuickBooks is one of the big ones. That's the one I use and love. But using that, getting all your data set up, your integration set up so that you can save time. You're not spending long hours trying to import data manually. And if you need someone to help you do that, you can just get that help initially, even if you don't want someone to do your bookkeeping regularly. But start to check in monthly. That's the biggest thing, is make sure you're logging into your account, your QuickBooks account. Don't just set it up and forget it. You want to be able to go in, be diligent each month, reconcile your books, look at what's coming in, categorize it, look at your reports, and be diligent about that. I know it's daunting a lot of times, but the more familiar you get with your numbers, with the type of activity coming in, the less scary it feels, and the more comfortable you'll start feeling around your numbers, and you'll be able to, when you're ready to hire a professional, be able to even ask those right questions. And so those are the three really that I would ask most business owners to start digging into.
Thank you for sharing that. And I am a big fan of QuickBooks as well. In fact, Sequioa Wealth is an affiliate of QuickBooks. And I've only promote products that I love and use. And QuickBooks has been one of the best investments that I've made. And I still remember the first time when I had to look at the profit and loss report, and I was so scared of that report because, of course, I was letting that report mean something about me as an individual. And when I hired my fractional CFO, her and I were going over numbers. And when you're able to see that you have actually positive money and your cash flow and the payments are coming and everything looks so clean, I was able to make decisions based on data versus feeling. And to me, that was a game changer. So if you are interested in, I'm going to plug in my affiliate link here, but like if you're interested in using QuickBooks, I'm going to leave the affiliate link below. We do get a commission when you use it, but there is a great discount going on right now. And now, Aminder, I want to ask you, because I literally can be with you like all day, but I also want to be mindful of your time. Tell us about your ideal client and how can people find you? So literally like promote what you offer right here, because this is what we do. We're community over competition.
Yeah. So I offer bookkeeping and fractional CFO services, which is just advisory services for service-based business owners here in Washington. And you can find me via my website, which is Sequioa-CPA.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Sequioa CPA and Instagram as well. And right now I am offering a QuickBooks review. So if you're looking for someone to just get a set of eyes on your QuickBooks and say, hey, yeah, it looks good, or here are the key takeaways, I am offering a 1-hour consultation. So we can do that as well.
I love that. And invest in women business, invest in getting your systems that are going to help you have a successful business, because I've seen it too. I see so many people that invest in the wrong thing, ended up going into debt for a website or a photo shoot. They don't build the systems, and then 2 years later, nobody can find them. So don't let that be you. I of course will say, go ahead and partner with Aminder. We are here to support each other and to also build wealth juntas. So on that note, Aminder, what is your definition of wealth?
Wealth is just freedom to be able to make decisions in your life for me. So it could mean freedom of time, and then whatever that means to you. So for me, that's just being able to find time to be able to do things that are meaningful and bring joy to me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show, and let's go ahead and build wealth juntas.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
On the Say Hola Well podcast and its associated entities, all content provided is for general informational purposes only. This information is not intended as legal, accounting, tax, or other professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek guidance from qualified professionals such as accountants, financial planners, or attorneys before making decisions based on the content shared. We assume no responsibility for errors, omissions, or misinterpretation in the podcast of its associated materials. Additionally, we disclaim all liabilities from any defamatory, offensive, or inappropriate content shared by guests or contributors. By accessing this podcast and its related content, you acknowledge the terms of this disclaimer.